Om Jnana-Timridasya Jnana-Shalakaya Chakshura-militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Mano-Bhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yukta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunastam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishnam Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitam Scha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopita Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema-pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namini Gauratize Namaha Nityanando Vatutendur Vasudha Pranavalabha Janaviri Jivita Patir Krishna Prema Prabhu Padmavati Sutasrimam Sachirananda Purvarjaha Bhavam Mata Jagatrakta Rakta Gaura Kilevaraha Panchatattva Makam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakti Shaktikam Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ukam karoti vachalam pangum lagayate grim yat kripatamahan vande Shri Guru Dina Taranam Paramanam Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Akanda Mandalakaram Vyaptayina Characharam Tatpadam Dashitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Hare Krishna. So first of all, we'd like to welcome everyone to this seminar entitled Overcoming the Fear of Death. So, this seminar is a product of my Bhakti Vaibhav dissertation. When I did Bhakti Vaibhav course in Mayapur, my final dissertation was on death. And when I presented it, my facilitator, His Grace Sureshwara Prabhu, said, Prabhu, this your presentation is very good. I would like you to serve devotees with it. I would like you to present it to the Vaishnav community. So on his order, that very year, I presented it to the devotees during the Mayapur festival. And many devotees requested that I should make it more available. So again in 2016, it was presented at the ILS program. I think it was there His Grace Dharmadma Prabhu participated. And I think he liked it. And he requested that when I come to Vrindavan, I should also try to present this program to the devotees. So on that note, we are sitting here today trying to share the discussion on overcoming the fear of death. Actually, everyone in this material world is afraid of death. Probably only the devotees of the Lord are not afraid of death. Probably. But it is also found among devotees that devotees are also afraid of death because they do not know what will happen when they leave this body. In fact, the fear of the unknown, actually, death is feared because of the unknown. Whatever is unknown to us creates fear. So, this seminar is meant to dispel our fears that we are harboring, thinking that when we leave this body, we are going to encounter some difficulty. So this seminar is meant to disabuse our minds from those fears. Birth and death are unavoidable in the material world. Birth means that we are entering the material world, or probably we are entering a particular life. And death means that we are leaving that life or that body. Let's put it this way. Death means we are giving up a particular body. Birth means we are accepting a particular body. They are the 2 points that every living entity has to experience. If you have to accept a material body, to accept a material body, you have to undergo birth from the womb of a mother, and to give up the material body, you have to die. So these 2 points in life cannot be avoided. Actually, they are part of life. They are part of the material existence. So therefore, birth and death are part of this material creation. Birth, disease, old age, and death. They are part of the material creation. Because the material world is not our permanent home. The material world is a temporary place for the soul. Therefore, Krishna arranged for the presence of birth, the presence of disease, the presence of old age, and the presence of death. Just to remind the living entity that this material creation is not our home. That is what it is meant, to remind us that we are in the wrong place. Naturally, Every living entity wants to live forever. That is natural. Everybody wants to remain young. Everybody wants to remain healthy. And everybody wants to live forever. That is a natural desire of every living entity. Why? Because we have a spiritual origin. Mama ivamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita that all living entities are parts and parcels of me eternally. So the living entity by nature is spiritual, part and parcel of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, we have an eternal existence. That is our natural constitutional position. But as soon as the living entity enters the material creation, he is forced to accept a temporary material body. And as soon as he accepts this material body, he has to undergo sickness, old age, and eventually death. They cannot be avoided. So, every living entity is going through this. Whether they are microbes, bacteria, amoeba, insects, snakes, animals, birds, trees, human beings, demons, demigods, every living entity within this material creation has to be born and has to die. You cannot avoid it. It is a law of nature. It is an active principle of this material creation. But the human form of life is so designed to end the problem of birth and death. That is the purpose of the human form of life, to end this birth and death, the cycle of birth and death. Unfortunately, the material world is so designed, society is so designed, our educational system is so designed that it does not give us the opportunity to learn the science of finishing this material existence. Society pampers the living entity. Society gives us the wrong direction. Society sets certain goals for us to pursue. And as a result, our attention is diverted from the main purpose of getting this human form of life. So, because of this, we have to go through this samsara, this cycle of birth and death, for millions and millions of lives. One cannot estimate how many times he has accepted material bodies. Srila Prabhupada says that there is no history. There is no history when the living entity actually entered the material creation. There is no history. There are no records. So therefore, it is important that we take shelter of this process of Krishna consciousness so that we can end this material existence. We can make use of this form of life, the human form of life that Krishna has kindly given us. So, as the topic entails overcoming the fear of death, fear not, death is a friend. This may sound rather strange. How can death be our friend? But death is our friend because death is none different from Krishna. Actually, in the Bhagavad-Gita, Krishna says, "Time I am, the destroyer of the worlds." And somewhere he says, "I am death, who takes away all forms of bodies, or all forms of lives. I've come as death to destroy everyone else except you, the Pandavas." So, if death is none different from Krishna, and Krishna is the best friend of the living entity, Suhridam Sarva Dehinam, as Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, then therefore we must understand that death excuse me. So we must understand that death is not all that dangerous as we think. Death should not be so fearful as we think, because death is the agent of Krishna. So if death is the agent of Krishna, if Krishna comes as death to take the living entity, then what is our fear? If our Supreme Father, our Supreme Friend, our Supreme Well-Wisher, Krishna, comes as death to take us, then we are in safe hands. Why should we be afraid? Don't be afraid of death. It is part of the natural sequence of the cycle of life. Death is the beginning of a new and a better life. Therefore, we should prepare ourselves not for death, but for a new life. In other words, we have to understand that once we are devotees and once we have engaged in the service of the Lord, there is always a better opportunity. There is always a better destination. There is always a better standard of life awaiting us. Once we have connected with Krishna in devotional service, the understanding must be there that Krishna is making the necessary arrangements for our elevation in Krishna consciousness. And that is why Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita that any little service that we have rendered is never lost. And that service will protect us from the greatest danger. So just by engaging in devotional service, we are charting a better future for ourselves. Because we are connecting to Krishna by engaging in Krishna consciousness. And any little service that a living entity performs for Krishna, Krishna never forgets. We may forget Krishna, but Krishna never forgets the living entity, especially when the living entity performs some devotional service for the pleasure of Krishna. So we should not be afraid of death because we are in the hands of Krishna. Just by participating in Krishna consciousness, we are in the hands of Krishna. Our going back home depends on Krishna. We should just do our services. We should just perform our sadhanas. Our going back home depends on the mercy of Krishna. A devotee prays for instant death. This is found in the Mukunda Malashtrotam. Krishna Tvadiya Pada Pankaja Panjaratam Adhyaiva me Vishatu Manasha Raya Hamsaha Prana Prayana Samaye Kappa Vatapitahi Kanta Vadrodhana Vidhosh Maranam Kutaste. Srila Prabhupada used to love this sloka. He recites this very often. O Lord Krishna, at this moment, let the royal swan of my mind enter the tangled stems of the lotus of your feet, or the lotus of your feet. How will it be possible for me to remember you at the time of death, when my throat will be choked up with mucus, bile, and air? So it is said that a devotee prays for instant death. Why? Because while we are having clear consciousness, while our mind is still very strong, while we can remember Krishna, it is better for us to die now. Otherwise, when we become very sick, when we become very old, when our throats are choked with mucus and bile, when the air does not flow through our choked windpipes into the lungs, it becomes difficult to remember the lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore, this prayer is necessary. Of course, it is said that if a devotee serves Krishna very nicely, a devotee performs his sadhana very nicely, a devotee expands the preaching mission very nicely, a devotee serves the spiritual master very nicely, Krishna becomes indebted. And even if the devotee forgets Krishna, even if the devotee is in some difficulty at the time of death, Krishna will not forget the devotee. Krishna will come forward and take that devotee. There are many examples. So therefore, it is not strange for a devotee to pray to the Lord, my dear Lord, please take me right now. Now that my mind is sound, now that I'm healthy, now that I can remember your holy names, now that I can think of you, my dear Lord, this is the best time you can take this life so that I can remember you while living this material body. Yam yam smaranam bhavam antya jite kalevaram. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, 8th chapter, that at the moment of death, whatever you think of, that you shall attain without fail. And that is why Krishna is recommending in Bhagavad-Gita, Man mana bhava man bhakto mam yaji mam namaskuru. Man mana, think of me. Mam yaji, worship me. Become my devotee. Offer your obeisances unto me. And you will come to me unfailingly. If the devotee thinks of Krishna, the devotee worships Krishna, the devotee serves Krishna, the devotee offers obeisances to Krishna, the devotee speaks about Krishna, the devotee hears about Krishna, obviously, Krishna becomes indebted. And at the time of death, Krishna will come and take that devotee back to the spiritual world. So our duty is just to execute the orders of the spiritual master, to execute our sadhanas faithfully, and the rest we leave it to Krishna. Wherever Krishna wants us to be, he will facilitate it. That is his job. It's Krishna's job to take us back home, back to Godhead. Our duty is to render service. Our duty is to remember the Lord. Our duty is to speak about Krishna, hear about Krishna. The rest is left to Krishna. If he wants us to go home in this very lifetime, it is possible. If Krishna wants us to go home in 2 lives from now, it is possible. If Krishna wants us to go home in 3 lives from now, it is possible. Nothing is impossible for Krishna. So let us play our part by performing our sadhanas faithfully, and for going back home, back to Godhead, let us leave that to Krishna. He will do it. He did it for many, many, many devotees. Why wouldn't he do it for us? See, Yashoda Mai, because of his love for Krishna, Krishna has become his baby. Just to show how much love Krishna has for his devotee. Parikshit Maharaj asked Srila Shukadeva Goswami that how is it possible that Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai are able to obtain Krishna as their son? What kind of pious activities has Mother Yashoda performed for Krishna to call him mother, 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 and suck her breasts? What pious activities did she perform? And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami gives the answer. Sudha Bhave Arohana. That by pure devotion, by pure bhakti, the cowhead boys are able to wrestle with Krishna. They are able to climb on the shoulders of Krishna. They are able to take food from the mouth of Krishna simply because of pure devotional service. By rendering service to Krishna, they purchase Krishna. That Krishna agrees, even though he's the Supreme Lord, to wrestle with them, to play with them on equal platform. They can climb his shoulders. They can do anything with the Lord. The same way, because of the love Yashoda Mai has for Krishna, because of that pure devotion for Krishna, Krishna agreed to become his beloved son. And he sucks her breasts with relish. So by the process of devotional service, the living entity endears himself to Krishna. And when the living entity endears himself to Krishna, obviously Krishna will take care. Krishna will take care. He's a loving father. He's a loving friend. He will take care. It is described how Krishna embraced Gop Kumar when he entered the spiritual sky. Krishna embraced him with tears of love. That means Krishna is waiting for us. Krishna is eager to meet us. And how do we meet Krishna? By devotional service. Bhakti-yoga abhijanate, yavan yas chasmi tattvataha. So, death cannot be avoided. Therefore, we have to prepare to meet death now. Since death cannot be avoided, the intelligent option is to prepare for death now. One may be admitted to the best hospital, treated by the best doctors, administered with the best of medicines. But if he is destined to die, he cannot avoid an appointment with Mr. Death. Even the best of doctors, they also succumb to the ravages of death. I had a cousin who is a professor of medicine. He teaches chest surgery, specializes in chest surgery. But 2 years ago, 2016, his wife died very miserably. The wife had asthma. And one Sunday morning, they went to a wedding a day before, a Saturday evening, and they came back late. So when they woke up, it was late, about 9 o'clock in the morning, so they couldn't go to church. So they decided, the wife said he was so tired, he cannot even cook. They would just make some tea, drink, and then in the afternoon, she will cook. So they made the tea, the wife made the tea, and husband and wife, they drank the tea, and then they relaxed in their lazy chairs. At that moment, the asthma attacked the wife. And so the husband ran into the room because the wife always carries with her an inhaler. So she runs into the bedroom, pick up the wife's handbag, open, and took out the inhaler. It was empty. There was nothing in it. It has finished, but they forgot to buy. So now the husband has to jump into his car and run to the nearest clinic, the nearest pharmacy, to buy the inhaler. When she got to the first clinic or the first the pharmacy, they said they don't sell inhalers. They don't have. And they directed him to another pharmacy, which is about 1 kilometer away from his house. So he jumped into the car and was driving to the next pharmacy when the house girl called and said, "Prof, I'm sorry to inform you that Madame has passed away." So according to him, he was confused. He doesn't know whether to stop in the middle of the road or to continue driving to the chemist shop or to return to the house. He was confused. Here am I, a professor of medicine, and just because of a common inhaler, my wife has died. I have saved so many lives, but here I cannot even save my own wife. So I got the news that Prof has lost his wife. I called him up. And I said, "Prof, I just heard that you've lost your wife. I just wanted to confirm." I said, "Yes, it is true. This morning, she's left me." So at that moment, I couldn't say anything. I just said, "Please accept our condolences." And then I said, I will pay you a visit. So 2 days after, I went to Professor's house. And truly, the wife was not there. I had a very close relationship with the wife. I could feel her absence in the house. So in a discussion with Prof, then he started lamenting how he could not save his wife's life. So I told him, I said, look, even you yourself, you are lamenting for your wife's life, but you yourself, when your time is up, all your knowledge of medicine will be gone. Yes. You yourself, you are lamenting, but as soon as your time comes, your medical knowledge will not help you. You will go. You have many friends who are professors. They have passed. You have many teachers who taught you medicine. They have passed. Many great thinkers, they have passed. Death is a mystery for a living entity. So it is not a matter of the best hospital, the best doctor, the best medicine, the best treatment. When your time is up, you will have to go. Therefore, we have to prepare now to meet death, because we do not know when it's going to come. When this professor's wife, that early Sunday morning, if she knew that she was going to die that morning, she would have preferred to go to the church. But she said she was tired because of the wedding from the previous night. And so he said, all right, let's just drink some tea and relax and rest. In the afternoon, we will cook. But that was her last tea she took. So nobody knows when death is going to come. Of course, some very advanced yogis, they can decide when to die and where to die. Some yogis, they're able to know this. But for the ordinary human being, for the ordinary people, nobody knows when and where he's going to die. Therefore, we must prepare now. We must be ready now. So that if it comes tonight, no regrets. If it comes tomorrow, no regrets. If it comes next year, no regrets. If Krishna gives us another 10 years or 20 years or 40 years, we'll just do our best in the service of the Lord. But we must always be ready. That is why His Holiness Bhakti-yoga Swami Maharaj wrote the book, Die Before You Die. In other words, you must connect your soul with Krishna. You must be ready to give up this body that is dying before you die. If you are ready to give up this body, it means you're already dead. So when death comes, it is no more a surprise. But if we are attached to this body, we are attached to this will, and we don't want to die, then death becomes very, very painful. Death is painful because of the deep, deep attachment we have for the body and for material objects. Death can be very pleasurable. For the advanced yogi, he simply withdraws from the physical environment. We have the example of Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj. Gaur Govinda Swami Maharaj, we all know that in 1996, he was describing the glories of Lord Jagannath. He was describing the Ratha Yatra festival to a group of devotees. And then his pleasure, his bliss was increasing and increasing until it got to a point. And he said, I cannot speak anymore. I cannot go beyond this point. And he just lay back and he was gone. Death can be very sweet. For a very advanced devotee, death is very sweet. But for a neophyte devotee or a non-devotee, death is fearful. So, preparing for death means increasing our consciousness. If we can elevate our consciousness by Krishna consciousness, death does not pose a problem for us anymore. Attachment creates fear, and detachment will eliminate the fear. If we have attachment for the material world, we will be afraid of death. But if we have attachment for Krishna, there is nothing to fear. Fear is there because of attachment to this body and the things, the objects around the body. But as soon as we develop some attachment for Krishna, fear is gone. So our duty is to increase our attachment for Krishna. And how do we increase our attachment for Krishna? By our daily sadhanas. Every day we are rising in the morning, we are attending Mangalarati, we are chanting Japa, we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, we are preaching Krishna consciousness, we are doing some service to the deities, we are doing some service to the spiritual master, we are doing some service to the Vaishnavas. All these activities will culminate in giving us a better consciousness. It will culminate in increasing our attachment to Krishna. So therefore, we must do these things more and more and more and more, so that our attachment to Krishna is stronger. Then it is possible for us to remember Krishna when death comes, whether it is today, whether it is tomorrow, or 10 years, or 100 years to come. This is in the wrestling arena of Kamsa. Kamsa thought he was the greatest personality. He thought he was the most powerful personality. He was such a dangerous person. He even imprisoned his own father, Ugrasena. And he thought nobody else, there was no other power above him, because he has gathered so many other demonic kings to join hands with him. He had entered into alliance with so many powerful demonic kings, and so he thought nothing could touch him. But Krishna mounted the arena and dragged Kamsa down and took away his life. Kamsa was very fortunate, actually, that he died in the hands of Krishna. He was very fortunate. Death is the greatest wonder. The most wonderful thing in this world is every second, living entities are going to the temple of death. Either man, animal, ant, so many. Therefore, this world is called Mrityuloka, the planet for death. So, Yudhishthira Maharaj said, Ahani ahani lokani gajanti yama mandiram. Every day, every moment, someone is dying. If you go to the crematorium ground, you can see many dead bodies are being brought. But those who are still alive, they think, oh, death will not come to me. I will live forever. He does not think that he is also subjected to this principle of dying. But he does not take it seriously. If this is called illusion, Maya. He thinks, I shall live forever. This is a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. So the most wonderful thing in this world is death. And even though we are seeing death every day, but everyone is thinking, as for me, I will not die. I am not a candidate for death. For that person, he can die. The other person can die. My neighbors, they can die. But for me, death cannot touch me. But actually, that is illusion, according to Srila Prabhupada. Because death is for everybody. In this material world, every living entity is very much addicted to his material body, struggling to keep this body forever. Everyone tries to protect it by all means, even at the sacrifice of all of his possessions. Therefore, who would be prepared to deliver his body to anyone, even if it were demanded by Lord Vishnu? These are the statements of Dadichi Muni. Dadichi Muni was requested by the demigods to offer his bones to them so that the bones can be used for preparing the thunderbolt Vajra. Vritrasura was a great demon that could not be killed. And so the demigods approached Lord Vishnu, and he told them they should go to this great sage, saintly man, Dadichi Muni, and ask for his bones. And his bones, because of his tapasya, because of his spiritual strength, his bones have become very powerful. And those bones can be used in creating the thunderbolt. And only that thunderbolt can kill Vritrasura. So the demigods, they went to Dadichi Muni. And they requested Dadichi Muni, please, great sage, give us your bones. So it is, if somebody asks for your bones, it's a very serious thing. It means he wants you to die. Because how can you give your bones and still remain alive? So in other words, the demigods were demanding the death of Dadichi Muni. So first of all, Dadichi Muni, he did not readily give them the bones. He engaged in some mock arguments with the demigods. He said, my dear demigods, don't you know how difficult it is to give up this body? Don't you know how much every living entity is attached to his body? How can you ask me for this? Then he came out with a philosophy that those who beg, they must understand the position of the donor. And those who donate, they must understand the position of the beggar. Because to beg means to take a humble position. To beg means humility. If you have no humility, you cannot beg anybody. And to sacrifice, to give something out means to sacrifice. If you don't have the heart to sacrifice, you're not ready to give anything out. So there are qualifications for begging and qualifications to be charitable. It is not that every rich man is charitably disposed. No, he might be rich, but he doesn't have the heart to give charity. One has to have some piety to give charity. So Dadichi Muni told the demigods that when you beg something, you should understand the difficulty the owner of the gift is going through to part with it. And of course, he was also understanding the demigods, that for them to take their humble position, to come to him, to beg for his bones, it was also very important. So after engaging in this mock debate with the demigods, Dadichi Muni withdrew his life force. He first of all withdrew the life force into the senses, into the mind, into the intelligence, and finally into the soul, and then he gave up the body. And then the demigods, they took the body of the Dichimuni, they extracted the bones, and then from those bones, the instrument of Indra, the thunderbolt, was created, was manufactured. And with that thunderbolt, Vritrasur was killed. So here, this is part of the mock conversation. In this material world, every living entity is very much addicted to his material body, struggling to keep his body forever. Everyone tries to protect it by all means, even at the sacrifice of all of his possessions. Therefore, who will be prepared to deliver his body to anyone, even if it were demanded by Lord Vishnu? Time also causes fear. The time factor is a very important factor in creation. It is described in the second canto and the third canto how the time factor plays an important role in the creation of the material worlds. When Mahavishnu glanced at Pradhana, he glanced at the Mahatattva, time was manifested. The most of material nature were manifested, and the living entities were manifested. From the glance of Mahavishnu, time, the time factor, Kala, chakra, was manifested. The living entity, the jivas, were manifested, and the modes of nature were manifested. And so time plays a role in the creation. And it is said that this time is actually an aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So therefore, it said that the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is felt in the time factor, which causes fear of death due to the false ego of the deluded soul who has contacted material nature. Time creates fear. As we are growing old, automatically we are becoming afraid. The sense of death is creating fear. Small children, they don't fear anything. Small children, they have nothing to fear. They can even hold a snake. They don't fear. But as we grow older, the fear of dying becomes prominent because of the time factor. So therefore, the more we take shelter of Krishna, the more this fear of time does not affect us. The more we take shelter of Krishna, the more we understand that Krishna is time. Time cannot function without Krishna's empowerment. Time is an instrument of Krishna. Time is in the hands of Krishna. So if a devotee is engaged in Krishna's service, time becomes a servant. In the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Yat prapya manusham lokam mukta dwaram apavritam grihesu kaga vat shaktas tam arudha chutam vidur. The doors of liberation are open wide to one who has achieved this human life, human form of life. But if a human being simply devotes himself to family like the foolish bird, then he is to be considered as one who has climbed to a high place only to trip and fall down. this material body, this human form of life, opens the doors to liberation. Once we get this human form of life, the doors of liberation are open if we know how to use it. But if we don't use it to achieve liberation, then it is said that it's like we have climbed to the top of the building only to jump headlong. We are committing suicide. How a pure devotee meets death. And in due course of time, when a pure devotee is completely prepared, all of a sudden, the change of body occurs, which is commonly called death. And for the pure devotee, such a change takes place exactly like lightning and illumination follow simultaneously. That is to say, a devotee simultaneously changes his material body and develops a spiritual body by the will of the Supreme. Even before death, a pure devotee has no material affection due to his body's being spiritualized like a red-hot iron in contact with fire. So by performance of devotional service, we are actually surcharging this body into a spiritual body. Because we are using the body in the service of the Lord, the body becomes spiritualized. And the example is the iron rod. When an iron rod is put inside fire, it assumes the qualities of fire. It becomes red hot and can perform the functions of fire. Similarly, when the material body is engaged in the service of the Lord, it becomes spiritualized. That is why the body of the pure devotee is worshipable, because he has used the body in rendering pure devotional service to the Lord. The body becomes spiritualized. So already the devotee is already experiencing spiritual life in this body. He's experiencing the spiritual world in this body. So going back home, back to Godhead, is not a new affair. Whatever we are doing in devotional service, it wouldn't change when we go back to Godhead. We are chanting the names of the Lord, it will not change. We are hearing the glories of the Lord, it will not change. Whatever we are doing in Krishna consciousness will not change when we get back to Godhead. Actually, we are simply practicing what is being practiced in the spiritual world. Glorifying the Lord 24 hours a day. So by such activity, the body is being transformed from matter to spirit. These are the statements that Dishimuni continued to speak. He says, "O elevated demigods, at the time of death, severe, unbearable pain takes away the consciousness of all living entities who have accepted material bodies." Don't you know about this pain that Dishimuni is asking the demigods? That at the time of death, there is severe, unbearable pain. And that pain takes away the consciousness of the living entity. Are you not aware of such pain? If you are aware of it, then why are you asking me to die? Because demanding for his bones means that they want him to die. Actually, the Vedanta Sutra says that it compares death to 1,000 scorpion bites. If any of you have ever experienced a sting of a scorpion, then you can understand the analogy here. The Vedanta Sutra says at the time of death, when the soul is taken out of the body, one feels the pains as much as 1,000 scorpions stinging you at once, biting you at once. It is supremely painful. Of course, that is for a person who is deeply attached to the body, who is deeply attached to matter. It becomes very difficult for the soul to detach itself from the body because of that deep attachment. But a devotee who understands that this body is not me, it is just a dress. A devotee who is engaged in Krishna consciousness, understanding that there is a superior place to go. When death comes, a devotee is very relaxed. And many times we see when devotees leave the body, you can see some serenity, some smile, some peacefulness upon their countenance, on their faces. When a devotee passes away, if you look at his face, you can see that he's looking very peaceful. Why? Because he's in touch with Krishna. Krishna has come to take him away. The Vishnudutas have come to take him away. And so they make him smile. But when the non-devotees die, their faces twist. When the non-devotees die, they are in anxiety. When they die, they go through a lot of pain. And so you can see anxiety on their faces. Sometimes they vomit, sometimes they pass stool, sometimes they urinate due to the difficulty of the soul being snatched out of the body. Actually, I had one experience which I always share with my audience anytime I present this. In my student days, I had a lot of friends, material friends, who used to drink. And one of them, every weekend, he will come to invite me for a drinking Saturday. And he used to work in the bank, so he used to have a lot of money on him. So one time, he took me out for a weekend. And that day he told me that today we should drink until we die. He said, look, I have so much money today, and we must finish all this money in drinking. So just drink as much as we can. So that was the sankalpa we took. That was the vow we took that day, that we're going to drink until we cannot see anymore. And so it happened. We drank and drank until we couldn't see each other. How we went home that day, I cannot tell. I only found myself in a hostel, because we went close by a drinking bar near the hostel, the student hostel, and I woke up to see that all my elbows were bruised, my knees bruised. So I guess I crawled home out of the drinking. I had lost control. I couldn't walk. So somehow or the other, I managed to crawl home. And for 3 days, I was vomiting and vomiting and vomiting. Anything I try to eat, I will vomit. Even if I drink water, I will vomit. So I suffered for 3 days without food, without water. On the third day, it's like I'm going to die. I was feeling that my life is coming to an end. Everybody had gone to the classes, they have gone for lectures, and I was alone in my room. I was lying there, helplessly struggling from the poison of alcohol. And all of a sudden, I saw three short, ugly-looking men with ropes in their hands. I've never seen them before. I've never heard about them before. So I was wondering, who are these people? Where did they come from? And why are they here? So even though I was weak from the vomiting and from not eating for 3 days and from the hangover, from the alcohol, but when I saw them and they were looking so dangerous, I gathered strength and I shouted and jumped out of bed and ran outside of the room. And I started shouting, "They are there, they are there." And so the laborers who were cleaning around the hostel, they ran to my aid. They came to me and said, "What is happening?" I said, "They are there." I said, "What is that?" "They are there." So they went into the room and they couldn't see anything. So they came out and said, "Are you getting crazy? Should we send you to the hospital? Are you sick? Something's wrong with you?" I said, "No." So we went into the room and I didn't see those beings again. I didn't see them again. But I understood that because I had misused the body, because of that unnecessary drinking, dangerous drinking I had done 3 days ago, I think I was going to die. I was feeling like this. I was going to leave this body. But somehow or the other, I didn't die. From that moment, I started recovering. And so I vowed never to drink again. So from that moment, I gave up alcohol. I had not even come across devotional service. I've not come across devotees yet. But I vowed never ever to smell alcohol because I saw the danger of it. I almost left my body to the point that I had attracted these ugly looking entities with ropes in their hand, very short and crooked bodies, and they had surrounded my bed. I said, if drinking is going to attract these people, I will never drink again. So I gave up drinking. 3 months later, I met the devotees. And they were selling these books, Srila Prabhupada's books. And at the back of the 6th canto on the Srimad Bhagavatam, Ajamil is there with the Yamadutas tying and snatching his soul. So I was flipping through the books and I saw that. So I asked a question to the devotee, "What is this?" And he said, "That is a very sinful man who is about to die. And these are the Yamadutas. They are the order carriers of the Lord of Death. They have come to snatch him from the body. Don't you see? They are tying him with ropes." Immediately, the picture became very clear in my mind that those 3 living entities who came to my bedside, they were the Yamadutas who had come to arrest me for misusing my body. So it is a fact that at the time of death, the Yamadutas will come, especially for non-devotees. For non-devotees, they cannot avoid the Yamadutas. But for the devotees, the Vishnudutas will come. Krishna will come. Either Krishna will come, or Krishna will send the Vishnudutas, or Krishna will send the spiritual master, or Krishna will send any person. One devotee, his name is Ramakeli Prabhu. He had done some good preaching in Africa in the beginning of the African Yatra. And after he did a lot of preaching, he went back to America and gave up his Krishna consciousness. And he was leading all kinds of lives. But the day he died on the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And a devotee who was present when he passed away told me that towards the end of his life, he was no more talking to anybody. Normally, that's how death comes. It withdraws the senses one by one into the mind. And finally, the person cannot speak again. So, it got to a point he was not speaking. But just a few minutes before he passed away, Ramakeli Prabhu just screamed, "Oh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you are here." And he passed away. So here is a devotee. He had performed some nice service in preaching Krishna consciousness in Africa. He went back to America, gave up Krishna consciousness, and started living his normal material life. But Krishna did not forget him. Krishna arranged that the day he used to leave his body was the appearance day of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur came to his bedside, and he saw Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he exclaimed, "Oh, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you are here." And he passed. So Krishna will not forsake us. Krishna will not forget us, inasmuch as we remain in Krishna consciousness. There shouldn't be any fear of death. Krishna is already waiting for us. He's waiting. He may come himself. He may send the Vishnudutas. He may send his pure devotees. But in any case, a devotee is always in good hands. Harsha Soka speaks words of wisdom. Even though one living entity becomes connected with another because of a relationship based on bodies that are perishable, the living entity is eternal. Actually, it is the body that is born or lost, not the living entity. One should not accept that a living entity takes birth or dies. The living being actually has no relationship with so-called fathers and mothers. As long as he appears as a son of a certain father and a mother, as a result of his past fruitive activities, he has a connection with the body given by that father and mother. Thus, he falsely accepts himself as their son and acts affectionately. After he dies, however, the relationship is finished. Under these circumstances, one should not be falsely involved with jubilation and lamentation. This is Harsha Shoka, the son of King Chitraketu. We know the story of Chitraketu. He had 10 million wives, but he had no son. So he was lamenting until Angira Muni came to his palace and made some jagya for him, and out of the jagya there was some preparation that he gave to his queen, the best of queens. And the queen became pregnant, and the child was born. And the name of the child was Harsha Shoka, pleasure and pain, happiness and sorrow. That was the name that Angira Muni gave to the king, that when your son is born, that will be the name. And the king was wondering, what is the meaning of this name? Anyway, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that I need a son who would inherit the throne. So, when the child was born, King Chitraketu, he gave more attention to the queen that got him a child. He put all his attention on the queen and neglected the other queens. So the other queens, they felt envious that because of this child, the king is neglecting us and is giving all his attention to this queen. So therefore, let us poison the child so that we shall all be the same. And the king will no more give more attention to this queen. And so they poisoned the child. And when the king heard that his only son was dead, he cried. He cried loudly. He lamented. He fell on the ground. He screamed. At that time, Angira Muni and Narada Muni appeared. And they brought the son back to life. They brought this boy back to life. And when the boy was brought back to life, he was rather surprised that people were crying. He was surprised that the king was crying. He was surprised that the queen was crying. He said, why are you crying? I don't know you. Why are you crying? I have had many fathers and mothers in my previous lives. Which one of them are you? I can't remember you. And so the king was rather surprised that even though he was lamenting that his son was dead, the son has been brought back to life, and he doesn't even recognize him. He doesn't even know him. And so at that point, Narada Muni began to instruct the king on spiritual subject matters. So, Harsashoka is giving us some information here that these material bodies, material relationships, they are only there because of the body. But the body itself is temporary. It does not mean we should neglect our relationships. We should neglect our wives, neglect our husbands, neglect our children, neglect our responsibility. No. But we are caretakers. We are caretakers of our wives, our children, our husbands. We are caretakers. We take good care on behalf of Krishna. Krishna has given us these children to take care of, to give them Krishna consciousness. Krishna has given us these wives to take care of, these husbands to take care of. We are caretakers. And if you don't take care of them, Krishna would ask, what did you do with my devotees I put under your charge? So we are responsible. We are caretakers. And we must ensure our wives, our children, our husbands are properly taken care of so that they can serve the Lord, so they can remember the Lord. Then the relationship becomes meaningful. Otherwise, if there is no spiritual connection, when the soul leaves, the body disintegrates into earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And everything is finished. No more relationship. So Harsashoka is telling us here that the material body actually has no meaning. In a lecture in New York, November 23, 1966, Prabhupada says, oh, this is very risky life. Very risky life. And this is the most covering part of illusion. One should be very serious that death is waiting, as sure as death. If there is any surety in this world, that is death. Nobody can avoid it. And when there is death, oh, there is no more intelligence, no more your puffed up philosophy. You are under the grip of nature. So death is waiting. Just like Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu was terrorizing his little son Prahlad. He wanted to kill God. He considered himself the master of the universe because he has subjugated even the demigods. The demigods were now like his maid servants. So he thought he was the greatest person. Nothing could kill him because he had received benedictions from Lord Brahma. That he will not die in the daytime, he will not die at nighttime, he will not die in the air, on the land, on water. He will not be killed by any beast or human being. He will not be killed by any weapon. So actually, Hiranyakashipu was thinking he was free from death. And so he started terrorizing everyone. But when he attempted to kill Prahlad, the Lord appeared from within his own pillar, in his own palace, and tore him into pieces. So even the greatest personality is subject to death. Time consumes everyone like a meal. Eventually, all the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and everyone else are devoured like a meal by the Supreme. This form of the Supreme Lord is the all-devouring giant. the all-devouring time. This is in the Katha Upanishads, also in the Bhagavad-Gita. The all-devouring time comes as death and consumes everybody. Krishna is waiting for us. Krishna is taking account, he's taking note of our daily activities, and he's just waiting for us. It is said that Yamaraj secretary, Chitragupta, he takes record of everyone's activity on daily basis. But Krishna, he personally takes record of the actions of his devotees, the activities of his devotees. The devotees are not within the jurisdiction of Yamaraj. So every moment of performing service for Krishna, of calling Krishna's names, of hearing Krishna Katha, we are getting closer and closer to Krishna. We are endearing ourselves to Krishna. And as soon as the time comes for us to leave this world, Krishna will come and take us. It is said that there was a great man who did not want to die. So he performed tapasya to please Yamaraj. He became a Yamaraj Bhakta. He did different things to please Yamaraj. And eventually, he pleased Yamaraj. So Yamaraj asked him, "My dear friend, what can I do for you?" And he said, "Please, I don't want to die. You are in charge of death. That is your department. So if you can be favorable to me, please, I don't want to die." And Yamaraj said, "That is not possible. I have been ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to take everyone in this material world. So I have to carry that order out. It is an order I have to carry out. So I must take your life. If you can ask for another benediction, another boon, but not this one." So the man said, "All right. If I have to die, promise me that before you come for me, you will send me a notice. You will give me a written notice ahead of time that my friend, on such a date, I am going to come and take you, so that I can be fully prepared to meet death." And Yamaraj said, "All right, that one, there's no problem. I will give you a written notice." So the man went away feeling very happy that at last he has entered into an agreement with Yamaraj, and before Yamaraj will take him, he will be given a notice. But one day, the Yamadutas appeared and said they have come to arrest him. His time was up. And the man said, "How is that? I had entered into an agreement with your master, Yamaraj, that when my time is up, he should send me a written notice ahead of time. I have not received any notice. How can you come and harass me like this? How can you come and arrest me? No, better call your master himself." So as they were arguing, Yamaraj arrived. And the man became angry with Yamaraj. "My dear Yamaraj, you told me that before you arrest me, you will give me notice, advance notice. But you have not given me any notice. Why have you sent your agents, your constables, to come to arrest me?" And Yamaraj said, "I had sent you a number of notices. I have sent you a number of notices. You didn't see?" And the man said, "I didn't see." And he said, "Anytime you were sick, that was a notice. When your hair turned gray, that was a notice. When your teeth fell out, That was a notice. When your sight became weak, that you cannot see, you have to use glasses, that was a notice. When your digestive system fails to function, that was a notice. So I have been sending you notices all the time, but you are not taking notice of them. So actually, disease is a warning of impending death. Disease of the body takes place due to derangement of air within the earthly body of the living beings. Mental disease results from special derangement of the air within the body, and as such, a yogic exercise is especially beneficial to keep the air in order so that the disease of the body become almost nil by such exercise. When they are properly done, the duration of life also increases, and one can have control over death also by such practices. A perfect yogi can have command over death and put the body at the right moment when he is competent to transfer himself to a suitable planet. So, expert yogis, they can actually practice this pranayama and keep the body healthy. They can extend their lifespan, and they can even decide when to die. They can choose the planet they want to go to. That is the power of yoga. So for a perfect yogi, disease and death has no meaning to him. But for the ordinary living entity, we have to go through death, we have to go through disease, old age, and these are all the written notices coming from Yamaraj that our time is getting closer. That Richimuni performed this act. That Richimuni controlled his senses, life force, mind, intelligence, became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bonds. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from himself. So, a great devotee can withdraw his senses, he can withdraw his mind into the soul. He can detach himself from the material world and will not feel any pinch of material miseries. Dadichi Muni demonstrated that. He withdrew his mind, withdrew his senses, and then he gave up the body so that the demigods could take his bones for whatever they wanted it for. The fear of death exists due to material attachment. The fear of death exists because of our deep attachment to the material world and its temporary material objects. If one develops attachment for the spirit soul, the supreme spirit, then there will no longer be any fear. A revolutionary approach to death. At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death. But one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof. You know, this is the picture of the disappearance of Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to be bitten by a snake bird in 7 days. So what did Parikshit Maharaj do? He took shelter of the great devotee of the Lord, Shukadev Goswami. He took shelter of Shravana. He continuously heard about the Lord for 7 days. And at the end of 7 days, Taska, the snake bird appeared and bit him. But at the end of 7 days, Parikshit Maharaj became fearless. He was no more absorbed in fear. All his fears were dispelled because he was fully connected to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the process of hearing. So this hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day, Bhagavad-Gita every evening, it is very crucial for the soul. It is very crucial for our attachment, our link with Krishna. The more we hear Bhagavad-Gita, the more we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we chant the holy names, the more we engage in Krishna consciousness, the more our link with Krishna strengthens. And so the more we are linked to the Supreme, the less we are afraid of death, the less we are attached to the body. And the less we are attached to the body, the less we are afraid of death. Fear of death is simply due to material attachments. So if we increase our attachment to the Supreme and we decrease our attachment to the material, to that degree, we will be free from the fear of death. So Prabhupada writes in the purport of the 6th canto, 1st chapter, verse 54. The atmosphere of the subtle body at the time of death is created by the activities of the gross body. Thus the gross body acts during one's lifetime, and the subtle body acts at the time of death. The subtle body, which is called linga, the body of desire, is the background for the development of a particular type of gross body. So, the physical body is acting during one's lifetime, but the subtle body accumulates all the desires of the physical body. And then at the time of death, whatever desires have been accumulated in the subtle body becomes very prominent. So to overcome the subtle body, we must hear more and more and more. We must chant more and more and more. If we engage in spiritual activities more and more and more, we increase our spiritual desire. That is what we store in the subtle body. And at the time of death, that would permeate our consciousness. And obviously, we shall attain the spiritual kingdom. Die before you die. Since we know that life is meant to prepare for a glorious death, we should live each day as if it is our last. There is no time to waste on irrelevant, superfluous activities. If we live with proper preparation and detachment, we will master the science of dying before dying to connect with the soul and its home, the spiritual world. After all, death is to remove everything false and secondary. This is Bhakti-Tita Swami in his book, Die Before You Die. That we should live every day as if this is the last day. And it could be the last day. We should prepare constantly. It is said that death is like a journey. When you want to embark on a journey, you prepare. So death is a journey. And so Krishna consciousness is a preparation towards this journey. And the more seriously we prepare towards this journey, the more easier it would be to travel on this journey. And the less we are prepared, the more difficult it is to go on this journey. So to die before we die means that we must make use of this opportunity Krishna has given us to hear attentively, to chant attentively, to relate to other devotees very nicely, because that would be impressed upon our consciousness, and at the time of death, that will permeate our consciousness, and that will give us the opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. This is found in the first canto, second chapter, verse 14. With one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. This is the way we can prepare to meet death. We have to constantly hear, constantly glorify, constantly remember, constantly chant, constantly worship. That is the preparation towards meeting death. Persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifest in their hearts within a very short time. Shukadeva Goswami is telling Parikshit Maharaj, the persons who hear Srimad Bhagavatam regularly and are always taking the matter very seriously will have the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, manifest in their hearts within a very short time. And if you have Krishna manifested in your heart, you're already home. You're already back home, back to the spiritual world. There is no question of fear of death. If Krishna is with us, there is no fear. Without Krishna, then we are afraid. Just like when the parents are not there, the children are afraid. If you send a child out at night, he's afraid of the darkness. But if the father is there, the mother is there, the child feels protected. He's not afraid of darkness anymore. Similarly, this material world is very dark. If we have Krishna, there is no fear. But if you have no Krishna, because of the darkness of this material world, we are all full of fears. The personality of Godhead who appears in the mind of the devotee by attentive devotion and meditation and by chanting of the holy name release the devotee from the bondage of fruitive activities at the time of his quitting the material body. Krishna will relieve us at the time of leaving this body. It is certain that Krishna will meet us at the time of death, so long as we are engaged in Krishna consciousness. So the key is that we should intensify our bhakti, we should intensify our sadhanas, we should intensify our practices. And Krishna will automatically meet us at the time of death and take away this fearful situation that everyone is afraid of. Being free from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, taking refuge in me, many persons in the past have become purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. This is Krishna speaking in Bhagavad-Gita. And if we are conscious of Krishna, the Vishnu Dutas will appear at the time of death, just like Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj was about to leave this planet, Nanda and Sunanda, they arrived from the spiritual sky with a golden airplane. And they signaled to Dhruva that your time is up. This plane has been sent by Lord Vishnu to come and take you back home, back to Godhead. And so Dhruva Maharaj he paid obeisances to Nanda and Sunanda, and he circumambulated the airplane and paid obeisances to the other sages. And when Dhruva Maharaj wanted to enter the airplane, death personified appeared before Dhruva Maharaj. And what did Dhruva do? He simply stepped on the head of death and entered the airplane. So, if we keep our consciousness strong in Krishna consciousness, if we keep our sadhanas going strongly, we have a good association, we execute our services, Krishna will send the Vishnu Dutas to come and take us. He will send an airplane to come for us. Yes, that Krishna will do. Because Krishna never forsakes his devotee. He never forsakes his devotee. Srila Prabhupada underwent death in a way that was perfect and glorious, and at the same time in a way which we can all follow. When we have to go, we can cling to the memory of how a great soul left his body, always thinking of Krishna, surrounding himself with the medicine of chanting the holy name, always desiring to hear about Krishna, and practicing detachment from the misery of this material condition. This is how Srila Prabhupada left this material world. From the very end of to the very end of his life, Srila Prabhupada was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. And he was surrounded by devotees singing the holy name very loudly. So Srila Prabhupada set a very good example for all of us to follow. Living Krishna consciousness, living the material body in perfect Krishna consciousness. A pure devotee's death is service to Krishna. He is prepared to accept all kinds of risk for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is an impediment in the discharge of his devotional service. Such a devotee is very dear to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's promise. At the time of death, one is certainly bewildered because of his bodily functions are in disorder. Nevertheless, such a person receives all the benefits of chanting the holy name. While the body is fit, therefore, why should we not chant the holy name of the Lord loudly and distinctly? One who chants the holy name of the Lord constantly is guaranteed to return home back to Godhead without a doubt. So, in this purport, 6th Canto, chapter 2, verse 49, purport, Srila Prabhupada is promising us here that if we chant the holy name of the Lord loudly and distinctly, is guaranteed that we shall return home back to Godhead. So that is what we need to do. We need to chant the holy name distinctly, loudly, carefully, attentively. Krishna enjoys his names being chanted. And Krishna will come and take us home at the time of death. Do not fear, Krishna delivers his devotees from the ocean of death. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pritha, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Krishna is saying this in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, that he is the swift deliverer of the devotee. So therefore a devotee should not be afraid of death, because Krishna will swiftly deliver a devotee from this ocean of death. And just see how Krishna is coming to deliver us from this ocean of birth and death. We should remain attached to the process of Krishna consciousness. We should remain practicing Krishna consciousness, and Krishna will definitely come for us at the time of death. O son of beloveds, O Krishna Oh, beloved Restaurant Nanda Maharaj, I am an eternal servant, but somehow or the other, I've fallen into this ocean of omniscience. And although I'm struggling very hard, there is no way I can save myself. If you kindly pick me up and fix me as one of the particles of dust at your lotus feet. This is Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu is teaching us how to pray in his Shastika prayers. Every day, we have to be praying to the Lord, please, my dear Lord, kindly come and pick me up from this ocean of struggle. And when the time comes, when death comes, Krishna will come and he will pick us up from this ocean of trouble. Hearing the flute of Krishna, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock feathers, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. If our consciousness is absorbed in Krishna, at the time of death, we will hear Krishna's flute. And when we hear Krishna's flute, the flute music will simply carry us back home, back to Godhead. Krishna is expert at stealing the hearts of his devotees. Krishna is not only expert at stealing the young gopis' dresses, the butter and yogurt of the elderly gopis, but Krishna is expert at stealing the hearts of his devotees. So we should pray that Krishna may kindly steal our hearts. If Krishna steals our hearts, then there is no question of fear of death. If Krishna occupies our hearts, then where is the fear? Because we still have so many things in the heart. We still have so much attachment of material things in the heart. Then there is fear. But if Krishna steals our heart, if our hearts are occupied with Krishna consciousness, there is no question of fear of death. Hare Krishna. So that is the end of the presentation. So, are there any comments or questions? Yes, Prabhuji.
The question we sent for tonight's seminar is when the living entity leaves the body, how long will it stay to get out of the body?
How long?
They take you to take another body.
How long does it take to take another body? It depends. For a devotee, Krishna can make the arrangement immediately. But for a non-devotee, it takes time, depending on where you're going to take your next life. Because when the soul leaves this body, it has to be trained for the next body. For instance, if in this body you are a human being, but you do not make use of the human form, and you have to take the body of an animal, the soul has to be put in it has to be trained how to behave as an animal. So it will take some time for the soul to be adjusted, to be trained and adjusted to that form of body. But for a devotee, it can be immediately, as Krishna wishes. As Krishna wants. A devotee's life is in the hands of Krishna. So, Krishna can arrange for you to take your next birth, the next day, the next month, the next year, as Krishna wants it. Or he can take you back home instantly. Of course, we understand from Shastra that when the soul is ready to return to the spiritual world, he doesn't go directly to the spiritual world. Krishna takes him to one of the universes where Krishna is performing his leela, is performing his pastimes. And there the devotee will join the retinue of the Lord. He will join the entourage of Krishna. And he will serve under a perfect devotee. And then he would learn his service, his particular service nicely. He will polish his service nicely under a perfected devotee. And then when Krishna is leaving that universe, then that devotee goes along with Krishna to the spiritual world. So it is left to Krishna. How long Krishna wants you to change over to the next life, Krishna will decide. But for the non-devotees, Yamaraj and his constables, they take care. And according to your karma, according to your destiny, then that amount of time is required to take another birth. Sometimes the living entity has to go to the heavens to enjoy his piety before he takes another birth. Sometimes the living entity has to go to hell to go through his reactions, karmic reactions, before he takes birth again. So it all depends. There is no specific time given how long the living entity attains another body. It all depends on your actions, the resultant actions, your destination, and of course, if you are a devotee of the Lord, then it depends on Krishna. Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, and then when the living entity get into coma, sometimes take days, weeks, months, and so forth and so on. So, the living entity, what it is, what it is when it's in coma, what it is so.
Yes, it is explained that when the living entity is in coma, his destination is not yet decided. So, the soul is still around. Not that the soul has left. The soul is still around, but it is completely inactive. Because once the soul is gone, then the death is pronounced. But the soul is still around, but the soul is no more active. It is inactive. It is present, but inactive because the functioning of the brain, the functioning of the organs have been arrested. And so the soul is still there, but it cannot function. So his destination is not yet decided. So long as the destination is not decided, the soul has to remain in the body. Even though the body is now useless, it has to remain there until the destination is decided. When the living entity is on the borderline between hell and heaven, it creates that delayance in deciding his next destination. And sometimes he has to remain in coma for some time for his next destination to be decided by Yamaraj and his constables. I think my time is up. I'm supposed to end at 7 o'clock. Any other question or comment? Thank you very much for your attention. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.